Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gururev Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidyat Ravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we're making our way through the third chapter, and what verse are we on, Mark?
26 for tonight.
46?
26.
26. All right. And Ganesh, will you help us out, please?
Yeah. Na buddhibhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacharan. Let no wise man unsettle the minds of ignorant people who are attached to action. He should engage them all in actions, himself fulfilling them with devotion.
So this is one of the most interesting verses in this chapter. We do not wish to unsettle the minds of the ignorant, or even those in the beginning stages of the path, with the teaching of absolute sannyas, absolute vairagya, the unreality of the personal sense of self, the unreality of the phenomenal world. We consign them to a hell. If someone comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm so upset. My mother's been diagnosed with cancer." What you do not do is say, "The wise grieve neither for the living or the dead." That's cruel. Or someone comes to you and they say, "Oh, I've been struggling with depression. I just want to slash my wrists." And you say to them, "It's unreal. Get over it." That's cruel. That's cruel. We want to give people a practice that's useful for them, at the particular stage of their spiritual unfoldment. We do not want to hammer people with the absolute when the mind is still too attached and gross to be able to use it. Instead, what do? Now, those of us who come from the Christian tradition, there's a very famous, what we call an exegesis. That's a breaking open understanding of the story when Jesus comes to visit the home of Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. So he gets there. This is towards the end of his ministry. And he's sitting there, and Mary is sitting at his feet. And she's just lost in her love for Jesus. And Martha's in the kitchen. And I always, imagine her making bread in the kitchen and things like that. She's got flour in her hair and stuff like that, and her hair's falling down. She comes out into the living room and she sees Mary just lost in her love of Jesus. And she says, Jesus, tell Mary to get in the kitchen and help me. And Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you're concerned for something over which you should not be concerned. Mary has the best part. And the way this is traditionally interpreted, the exegesis, Martha symbolizes what we call the active state of life. As yogis, we can say those of us who still have a lot of vasana pressure. We want a career. We want a relationship. We want the fellowship of good friends. We want to have a home. We want to have a dog. All those worldly things. I want a nice car. I want to be able to travel. I want to experience the world. And to tell someone to just shut all that off like a light switch doesn't work. Even if they leave the world and go to an ashram, they're going to spend all their time thinking about what they're not doing. Remember earlier, Krishna says that person who gets rid of the objects of desire but allows the desire to remain behind is verily a hypocrite. But their desire leaves them upon seeing the Supreme. Gotta take it in stages. So, even in the Christian tradition, Martha symbolizes the active life. Mary symbolizes the contemplative life, what we yogis would say the life of meditation, of deep self-inquiry. So we have to be humble enough to know where we are and to understand what's the proper practice to suggest to others. So if at some point you think you may want to become a teacher, spread the Dharma, it's a great, great job. We want to be able to understand some of these principles. So here Krishna is saying, what do we do for those people who want self-realization, but whose hearts are still filled with desire, we engage them in action. Now, let's review our 5 elements of karma yoga that we've been talking about all through this chapter. The first, act, O Arjuna. Notice Krishna doesn't say, what you need to go to the Himalayas and become a sannyasi. Because he knows he's not ready for that. It's not his swadharma. It's not his prakriti. How should I act? Well, according to my inherent latent proclivities, my nature, my vasanas. But don't do it in a selfish way. Do it in the yajna spirit. Serve the society. I don't care what your problem is. Go help another person. Why does that work? The most painful position of the mind is what I call paranoid self-observation. How am I doing? Am I okay? What do they think of me? How I've suffered. Oh, let me give you a litany of how I've been wronged. My miseries. That's a miserable state of mind. And here we other center the mind. Go take an interest in another person. Serve the society. Do something that's of value to the society at large. Have a purpose-driven life, as some of the Christian pastors talk about it. The yajna spirit. Yajna means sacrifice. Act according to your inherent latent proclivities, but in the yajna spirit, selfless service. And renouncing our attachment to the fruits of action. Thy right is to work alone, never to its fruits. That's all we got in life. All we get. Let me give you a real life example. Back in old-timey days when I was teaching voice, I'd have young people come who wanted to learn to sing, and frequently we would have to have a conversation. Do you want to be a musician or do you want to be a celebrity? They had to really be honest with themselves. Do you want to be famous or do you want to be a musician? They're not mutually exclusive. But if you work hard and learn your craft, you'll probably be able to have a career as a musician. But you may not end up as famous. You might. Krishna says, I am the karma paladata. I am the giver of the fruits. All we get in life is work. We will enjoy what you're doing. Then the last element, renunciation of the sense of agency. You haven't gotten there yet. Now, what Krishna is implying here, if we take the baby yogis and we engage them in work, in seva, with these 5 elements, we exhaust vasana without creating new ones. And in time, how much time, Jim? I can't tell you. That's a very individual condition. When the vasana pressure has lessened, the mind will naturally start to turn inward and will crave this interior life. We develop what the yogis call mumukshutva, the burning desire for liberation. So in
sorry, what-
the question,
What was the fifth?
the fifth one is the abandonment of the sense of agency.
Ah,
We'll
okay.
get to it. We'll get to it. He just to give you a preview, he'll say, who is the agent? It is guna and karma, the qualities of mind and the force of the past. There's no person there really doing the choosing. Did that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. But the main point here is, first of all, for our self-diagnosis, where am I in my sadhana? Am I a baby yogi still? Meaning, do I have a heart that's still filled with a lot of passions, a lot of desires for the world? Go after the world, but do it in an intelligent way with these 5 elements. Now, some of us have already seen the vanity and the futility of it all. Enough of this, I'm done. I want the real stuff. Then the mind turns within. We're not concerned with the world. We've become a tyagi. What's tyagaha, Michael?
Not sure.
What?
I don't know.
Abandonment.
Mm.
Let me give you an example. One I use in the basic course. When you're a youngster, you got a tricycle. Did any of you have one?
Mm.
Did you?
Yeah, bicycle.
And then eventually later you got a bicycle.
Mhm.
What happened to your desire for the tricycle?
It's forgotten about.
Huh?
Forget about it.
You got it. That is tyagaha. That is mature sannyas. When we start to revel in something that's more fun, more rewarding, something that's juicier, or as Vidyaranya says, Brahmananda Rasa Swad. Swad means to taste. Tasting the juice, the rasa of the bliss of Brahman. And what world? Oh, is there a world out there? Yeah. Kinda. We've become a tyagi. A band. So, active life followed by the contemplative life. The karma yoga followed by atma vichara, self-inquiry. Now, this is especially for Ashley. In addition to being a karma yogi, later on we'll have the same paradigm for bhakti yoga. For some people, we meet the world through our feelings. It's not so much the job we have and stuff like that. It's my feelings are what get all engaged and tangled up. I'm hypersensitive. I bruise easily and heal slowly. I have a heart like a gardenia. You know, you touch a gardenia, petal turns brown right away. Some of us are like that. Some of us are sensitive people. I'm going to tell you a true story. A Westerner came to Swamiji and said, "Hey, Swami, how'd you get into all this?" And he took it seriously. He thought a moment. And he said, what alternative is there for a sensitive person? So, dear Ashley out there in Zoom land, I have a suspicion you're a very sensitive person.
True
Am
statement.
I right?
Yes.
Yeah, you haven't got much choice, girl. You belong to the Lord. No say in the matter. Okay?
Okay.
And have you read any St. Augustine?
I've not.
You know who he is, though.
I've heard of
Yeah.
some.
Lived in the 400s. He's a doctor of the church. His Confessions is the first real autobiography. It's a really good read. But one of his most famous sayings, thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee. Many of us are sensitive people. And the solution is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and soul and mind and strength. And Jesus said, speaking of the Hebrew Bible, that that's the first and greatest commandment. So that's the path for the bhaktis, those who need to deal with their sensitivity, with their emotional nature. Karma yoga is more for those of us where it's about attachment to the stuff of this world, you know, to jobs, to ambition, to acquiring stuff. So here Krishna says, do not unsettle the ignorant, the baby yogis, or even the people in foolishness who don't have any interest in yoga with the highest knowledge. Who here's had the experience you tried to explain the Vedanta to someone and all it does is piss them off? Anybody had that experience?
Yeah.
This is the shloka. This is the shloka that deals with that situation. All right, any more questions on this one? It's a really important verse. Active life followed by the life of self-inquiry. If we are diligent in our karma yoga, self-inquiry comes easily. If we're the kind of person that, you know, there's a textbook and you go to the last chapter, that's your approach to life, then you may have trouble in yoga. Oh, yes, I'm going to go study Mandukya Upanishad first. Knock yourself out. But if you've got a heart full of a lot of desire and a head full of Vedanta, you're going to be a really miserable person. Next verse.
Prakrite kriyamaణాని gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. All actions are performed in all cases merely by the qualities in nature, the gunas. He whose mind is deluded by egoism thinks I'm the doer.
So now we're starting to deal with this fifth element. So the gunas, who can tell me what the gunas are? We don't mean goonie birds. Are there 5 gunas, 4 gunas, 6 of them, 2 of them?
Three.
Say again, Michael.
the Rajas, Tamas.
What the heck does that mean?
Do you want me to explain?
Yes!
Sattva is like a peaceful, tranquil quality. Rajas is like a more restless, energetic quality, and Tamas a more like lethargic, lazy energy. And then those three all together are the different aspects of nature.
Yes, they not only have the aspects of nature, so a rock is tamasic, a lion is very rajasic, elephants are very sattvic in my. But the human mind goes through these things. I always like to use pizza as a way of illustrating it. So you're hungry, deliver a pizza. Rajas. The guy comes, you gotta get out your money and pay that. Well, you don't do that anymore. You go. Right. And then you have the pizza, you open up the box. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
Finally, and of course, you never use a knife and fork with pizza. Get the slice. Rajas. Oh, sad good pizza. Desire and object of desire become one. The mind stops. We have a moment of sattva. And after you've done half the box of the extra large pizza, all for yourself, and you come to and go, maybe some ice cream. Starts all over again. So the human mind cycles through this. It cycles through the qualities of mind. Now, it's not just a circle, it's a spiral. As we do more and more sadhana, our overall mental state becomes more sattvic. Because in sattva, it's when we have peace, joy, clarity, seeing things as they are. Tamas is when we're most deluded, most shut down. There are people who crave tamas because it's their way of dealing with their suffering. All our suffering happens in the rajasic mind state. Craving, ambition, anger, and jealousy, envy. All that sort of stuff is in the rajasic mind. Some people, they want to get loaded. What does that do? Takes the mind from rajas and shoves everything down into tamas. Problem is, it doesn't go away. The mind resurfaces back into rajas. Booze didn't do enough. Now I need kratom. I didn't do it. Okay, now what's the one that's killing all the people?
Fentanyl.
What's the drug that's the street drug that's killing all the people?
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl, yes. Oh, they love fentanyl. That's the mind going from rajas into tamas. There are whole societies that function in rajas. A society like most of America, where the one with the most toys wins. The one who's in charge, who's in control, who has the most stuff. Young people say FOMO, fear of missing out, pure rajas. Craving attention, approval, better office, bigger paycheck, bigger title. All that stuff. For me, not to serve the society, but for me, that's rajas. Sattva, when I'm content. Santosha. When I'm content with what comes and no grieving with what goes. When my joy is independent of the external circumstances. That's the sattvic mind state. Doesn't mean we don't work. We work from a different place. So what Krishna is saying here is all of our actions come from simply our mind states and the force of the past. So yoga's notion about free will is very contrary to the Western idea. In the Western traditions, we say free will is a function of the soul. You can choose to do good. You choose to do evil. Bullshit. If any of us have ever had an addictive tendency or a bad habit, wake up in the morning and saying, I'm not going to drink today, or I'm not going to do sugar today, or something positive, I'm going to go to the gym today. And then you don't do it. Who's had that experience? Again, for Ashley, St. Paul said it in his letter to the Romans. I do not do that which I would do. And I do that which I hate. Therefore, it is not I that do it, but sin that is lodged in my limbs. That was his way of talking about what we call a vasana. Who can tell me what a vasana is? Michael, what's a vasana?
An unconscious impression from a previously performed action, usually egoic based.
Yes. And we don't see them directly. We infer a vasana from its effects. What are the effects of a vasana?
Jonesing for more.
Hmm?
Jonesing for more.
There's something that happens before that. Varana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti Cha.
Veiling and projection.
And what is the veiling?
I don't know what I am or who I am.
Yes, the non-apprehension of myself as Brahman. Vritti, avidya, veiling power, the first and the most painful part of it is I do not know myself as Brahman. Then comes the Vikshepa Shakti. It comes from the root shipati, which means to throw or like to hurl a spear. And the mind projects. What does it project? First idea, Jiva Bhavana. I think I'm a person. Simultaneously with that is a perception of the world of name and form as separate from me. I, Jim, am over here. The world is over there. Subject, object. And the world is inherently joy-giving and misery-producing. And the third element, kartavya. What's kartavya? Obligatory action. In other words, I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, I must do this in order to be happy. That kind of obligation. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that is my suffering. That is dukkha. That is samsara. That sucks. Sound familiar? What is its cause? Vasana. So vasana is the non-apprehension of myself. Then the first thing I experience is disquiet. I'm restless. I'm discontent. Then my mind presents a goal. Go for that. Get away from this. That's what makes the world go round. That's how the Lord keeps the whole Maya going. It's not wrong or bad, but it sure does hurt. This is the source of all my activities. The force of the past maturing. So, Michael, do you want to go to New York after your visit here?
Yes,
Why do you want to go to New York?
to see friends
Why do you want to see friends?
because they had a baby, and I feel like I should see them.
Yeah. Did you choose it?
Yeah,
Did you really choose it?
I don't know.
As a yogi, from what Krishna is saying, did you choose it?
No, it was an arising and caused some conditions, gunas, etc.
Yes, guna and karma. There's no person there really making the choices. It feels like I choose to do this. Why? Well, I wanted to do it. But why did you want to do it? Course of the past maturing. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but what we want to do as yogis is don't dress it up and romanticize it. My needs. I'm not getting my needs met. I just think that's the funniest thing in the world when I hear people say that. Your needs are food, clothing, and shelter. Everything else is desire. Everything else. Most people don't shoot themselves because they don't have food, clothing, and shelter. My needs met. I have to get a manicure twice a month. Oh, yeah. The play of the gunas, qualities of mind, and the force of the past. Anybody ever seen a high school marching band? Do they have high school marching bands in India?
They do.
They do. And do they have them in Australia?
I don't know, probably. I haven't seen any though.
So you see the marching band, and then in front of it, there's a drum major. Oftentimes they got a big fuzzy hat, and they've got a thing that they go up and down. And it looks like the drum major is keeping time for the band. That's not what's happening. They're looking at the music and they're listening to the drums. He's just there for show. So I always have the image of the marching bands going down the street in the parade. And the drum major just keeps going forward, and the band knows what the parade route is, so they just turn and go down another street. And the drum major goes, ah, whoa, and he has to run again in front. That's ego. I am doing this. Oh, I'm so successful. Look what I was able to accomplish. All just empty vanity. Without exception. There's no person there. What appears as a person The scriptures use a couple wonderful words. Here they've used the term ahankara. It's two words smushed together. What's aham mean? I. Kara comes from the root kri, to make or to do. Karana means cause. Kara. It causes a phony sense of I to arise. It's a far richer word than the English word ego. It's I maker thoughts, I maker beliefs. Now, it's not just thoughts going by like words. We have ahankara in a dream. So if you have a dream, you've got a dream body, which is a locus of perception. You see the dream world. And a dream ego is identified with that dream body. I don't know about you, but I've never fat in my dreams and I see perfectly. But is there a real me in the dream? Or is it something my mind created? It's something my mind created. So also is the sense of I in this body in the waking state. It is chit chaya. Is chaya a word you've had yet?
No.
Yes,
maybe,
no?
maybe, but it's not ringing a bell.
Chaya means a shadow.
Mm.
Oh, chaya.
Hmm?
Yeah. Or,
Is same in Hindi?
yeah, chaya. Wait, chaya. Chaya means shadow.
Shadow. Same in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So chit chaya is a shadow or a reflection of consciousness. It's a shadow.
Mm.
So, if you see a photograph of a person who's silhouetted with a really long shadow, the shadow isn't anything real. I can't say, oh, I'm going to pick up my shadow and put it over my shoulder and take it home. It's nothing real, unless you're watching a cartoon where they, fall down the holes of the shadows. Never seen those?
Yeah.
But that's not how shadows work. What happens when you shine a light on a shadow?
That's it.
It disappears.
It does. So also with the ego. In the mind, introvert the attentive faculty, go looking for this personal self. And it falls. You can't find it. All you can find is Chidakasha. What's Akasha? Space. The space of pure awareness. So the equipment, the body, mind, intellect, is going to act in the world. We call it prarabdha karma, the karma of this very life. And it's comprised of guna, qualities of mind, and the force of the past. Now, why is this important to understand? Who here has regrets about things done in the past? Decisions you made? Anybody? You could have done no other. There was no you that really made the choices. It was your prarabdha karma. You could do no other. Well, what about if I was in an abusive relationship? Did I choose that? Well, it's kind of like if you go out and drink cheap champagne on Friday night, which you really enjoy, you wake up Saturday morning with a terrible headache. Am I choosing to have a headache? Well, not really, but it's the inevitable result of Friday night's indulgence. So frequently, we must suffer the unintended consequences of actions done in ignorance. But you can do no other. You did what you did. So the yogi is able to let go of regret for the past. Now, there's a caveat in this. If you have hurt or harmed someone in your past, you can go to that person, acknowledge your fault, and attempt to amend it, to make it right. Let's say you stole money from a friend or lied to someone in a relationship. We will find that much of the past we can clean up, which lessens the burden of you can't change it, but you can repair a lot of it. Not all of it. Same thing with the future. Oh, I've got an offer to take a job at company A and also from company B. And last time I made such a terrible decision. I worked for company X and they just screwed me over. And I'm so anxious. Should I do this or should I do that? Who's ever had those kinds of problems in life? Mm-hmm. What Krishna is saying here is you're going to do what you're going to do. It was written when you popped out of your mother's womb. Now we experience choice, but there's no person there really choosing. We may not always see the chains of causation. My favorite image of this, if you've ever been hiking in mountains during spring and there's a snow melt and the water comes down the mountainside and it puddles behind a large stone. You can watch it and the water level is rising up. Is it going to go to the left or is it going to go to the right? Is the water going to choose which side it goes? What's it going to do?
Wherever the stone's oriented, it will roll it.
The side that's lower. Laws of gravity and hydrodynamics. If the one on the left is a little lower, that's where the water's going to flow. You're going to do what you're going to do. So the yogi is able to let go of regrets for the past and worries about the future. You can't make a mistake. Choose, act, and don't worry about it. And if it turns to caca in your hands, prarabdha, do your best. Do good, be good. Return good for evil. Don't be a jerk. Just the force of the past maturing. Guna and karma. So what we have is the now. So I remember having a friend who had a business plan for life. It's such an age, you wanted to have this much money, this amount of stuff, and those are goals he wanted to meet in his life. Knock yourself out. But I shared with him, well, I'm the ball bearing in God's pinball machine. Guna and karma. Whack! The pinball goes ka-chung, 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 ka-chung. I don't know what's going to happen. And then I come back there and God goes, whack! Something else happens. At some point, into the gutter and boom. Game over. Put me in the ground. So this is an important idea in karma yoga, to renounce our identification with the sense of agency. There's no person there doing the doing. Just like, so Michael's come to visit. When was the last time I saw you in person?
Probably 2022.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, have you spent time in Australia going, grow hair, to make your hair grow?
Not often. Because
Why not?
it grows naturally.
Oh.
At least for now.
And I haven't heard you go love dub the whole time you've been here. Aren't you making your heart beat? Are you? Of course not. The Master Jesus phrased it this way: consider the lilies of the field. They neither spin nor sow. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed as one of these. Give up your concern. Let go of regrets from the past and worries about the future. Does that mean we don't make plans? You can make plans, but then you find out if God has a sense of humor. Man proposes and God disposes. Or as they say in the military, no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. Make your plan, but don't be attached, because guna and karma may have different ideas. So we ride the horse in the direction it's going. We don't have to push the river of life downstream. Take it easy. Go with the flow. Or if you're a bhakta, turn your will and your life over to God's care. Surrender. Ishvara pranidhana, what we're talking about, the Patanjali. Trustful surrender to God. Same idea, does the same thing. Gets us to let go of this false sense of responsibility. It's so important. I've got to make the right decision, and I won't be happy if I don't make the right decision. Who's been tortured by that thought? You're going to do what you're going to do. And you did what you had to do. Guna and karma. All action under all circumstances is nothing more than the play of the gunas, impelled by our bundle of vasanas, which we've accrued over lifetimes. Now, the good news, the fact that you're here listening to Gita, you also didn't choose. That's also part of the soul's evolution. All right, these are just incredibly rich verses. Next one, please.
तत्त्ववित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्म विभागयो गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्त इति मत्वा न सज्जते. But he who knows the truth, O mighty armed, about the divisions of the qualities and their functions, and he who knows that gunas as senses, move amidst gunas as objects, is not attached.
Yes. So here he rephrases the same idea. Knowing that the senses move among the sense objects, that there is no person really. Doesn't mean we don't make choices. It's karma, it's not kismet, Swamiji used to say. I'm not sure that's the proper use. When he said kismet, he meant fate. It's not, oh, what's my astrology say I'm supposed to do? You know, what's my numerology say? Or I'm going to go to the psychic. Should I marry so-and-so? You know, that's not what we're talking about. It's not out there telling me what I should do. If you want to know God's will, we need to listen to that still small voice, as the prophet Isaiah called it. But just as Krishna says, you have to be detached, seeing that it's all guna and karma. On this shoulder is the screaming voice of raga. I want it, it's got to be this way. And on this shoulder is the screaming voice of dvesha. No, never, not me. And we have to silence both those voices. Mature detachment until we have the sense of samadrishta, equality of vision. Talked about that in the last chapter. Then trust the intuition. Let me give you a real live story. So we're going back to the year 2000, 25 years ago. I had just finished my master's program at Cal State Hayward. And up to that point in my music career, I'd been a professional singer, but I was getting a bit long in the tooth. And one of the things I studied in my my master's program was conducting. So I wanted to get a job as a music director, a church job. So one of the jobs I applied to was at this little church in Oakland called St. Augustine's. And I went there. The fellow picked me up, drove me over there. And they were crazy. There was all these little power dynamics, and everybody was frightened. I hadn't had a music director in a year and a half because they kept scaring applicants away. And there was no priest in charge. There was just some crazy people who were kind of running things, and they were doing what we called supply clergy. It was read a priest. And so this guy, Silas Elias, he was driving me home. And I said, Silas, I'd be crazy to take this job. No wonder you haven't been able to fill the position. And it paid very poorly. And he got quiet. He said, Jim, will you pray about it? And I said, yes, that I will do. So this was 3 chairs ago in the same place in this apartment. I had a chair here. I sat cross-legged and I said, okay, God, should I take this job? And I have what I call my signals. It's a sense of rightness. I ask a question of my deeper mind. I either get yes, no, or I'm not telling you. But I got a definite sense that I should take this job. Everything in my intellect said, nope, don't do it. But over the years, I have learned to trust that still small voice implicitly. Called them up. I took the job. I stayed with that job for 14 years. Had a blast. Built an entire music program. On a very practical level, I got a retirement and benefits as well as a salary. First time I'd ever worked where I got a paycheck. It was marvelous. I'd been self-employed up to that point. But I had no idea. I couldn't have figured it out. But I had learned to live from that intuitive place. I of myself do no thing. It is the Father within that doeth the work. That's how the Master Jesus framed it. Now, here's another thing to know about this process. One of my colleagues from St. Augustine has this saying, God has given me everything I never knew I really wanted. So when we start to let go of this egoism, I gotta have it my way, and trust and fall into light, marvelous, magical, grace-filled things start to show up. It's amazing. Synchronicity that starts to take place. We begin to dethrone that shadow self, that phony self, that chit jaya, that fake self, which unfortunately is where many of us are still identified. Act how? According to my swadharma, my inherent latent proclivities, but not in a selfish way. It's not about getting my needs met. In the spirit of selfless service. For example, story I love to tell, many people say that if Swami Chinmayananda hadn't become a Swami, he would have been Prime Minister of India. But he took that same skill, that same dynamism, and became a Jagat Guru, a world teacher. Same Swadharma, same Swabhava, but he made himself Mukhya Sevak, a head servant, renouncing his attachment to the fruits of the actions and understanding in the end it's all guna and karma. It's prarabdha. All right, next verse.
प्रकृतेर्गुणसम्मूढा सज्जन्ते गुणकर्मसु तान् कृत्स्नविदो मन्दान् कृत्स्नभिन्न विचालयेत्. Those deluded by the qualities of nature, gunas, are attached to the functions of the qualities. The man of perfect knowledge should not unsettle the foolish who are of imperfect knowledge.
Yes. So, those whose knowledge is imperfect, he uses the word Buddha, fools. But we can say the ignorant, the ordinary people out there. We don't unsettle them. You know, we encourage them to work in the world. Another true story. Many of you have heard this. So I had a young man I was working with, and he was in recovery. He was newly sober, a couple years. And he had essentially a drunkard's job. He was an academic administrator, pushing paper in a school, making crappy money, living at home with his mother because he couldn't afford even to get an apartment. Very shut down. Now, granted, he had a fantastic voice. He had a college degree in theater performance, I think, something like that. He was sitting right there where Michael is. And I said, if you were independently wealthy and you had all the training in the world, all the talent in the world, all the contacts in the world, what would you be doing with your life? And he didn't miss a beat. He said, I'd sing. And I said, well, then why the hell aren't you doing it? Well, I just want to wait till I get some financial security and then I'll do it. And I said to him, I won't mention his name, we'll call him Sam. If you spend 10, 15 years as a school administrator, in 15 years, you'll be a top level school administrator, but you will not be a singer. The end is the means in a different form. You want to be a singer, you start right now singing. And his whole life changed. He's now finishing up his last semester, getting an MFA or an MA, master's degree at is it Cornell? Big mucky Ivy League college. You know, off to New York to audition on Broadway. I mean, incredibly talented. Whole life is opened up. He loves his life, what he's doing. He's not a contemplative. He's not a heavy-duty meditator. Too much fuss and pressure. Still a lot of desire in his heart. There's nothing wrong with it. So, as a guru, I did not unsettle his mind. Oh, you shouldn't be attached. No, he's not ready for that. He's ready to act according to his desires and give up the attachment to the fruits, because that'll help give him peace of mind. But do you understand the principle here? Act. Go for your dreams. And understand in many ways the script for the 3-act drama of your life. I got this from Jane Fonda. Our life is a 3-act play of about 30 years each. It's written when you popped out of the womb. Just say your lines, play your part, and do it with enthusiasm. You may be the leading person, the lead in the show. You may have a bit part. Might even be the villain. You'll get your allotted dose of successes and failures, achievements and disappointments, all product. Do your best. Let God do the rest. Act according to your swadharma, in the spirit of selfless service, renouncing your attachment to the fruits of action and your renunciation of the sins of agency. This is the one we worked on tonight. Okay, we'll end here. What verse are we on for next week?
30.
Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om.